My son was killed, and this is while I was in Afghanistan. It really just rocked my world. You don't even know how to deal with it. Sometimes stuff just sucks, where you're intentionally spending time around other veterans. I am wholeheartedly behind that mission. You have to go out there and advocate for yourself. That desire to serve is still there, and there's no in-between. People don't see the in-between. The mission continues. This is not a draft was a great way to express that.
Today's guest is Jack Blair. He's a U.S. Army veteran, the host of the Veteran Stories podcast, creative director of the Overland Productions, and the director of an upcoming documentary film called This Is Not a Draft. Excited to hear more about that. But Jack's work spans through podcasting, filmmaking, and live media, all driven by a mission to honor and elevate the veteran experience. And we're honored to dive into this journey with you here today, Jack.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure. I love working behind the camera, and I love making sure that these productions get up and get off the feet. And it's super fun for me to work in veteran spaces. Like, it's my passion. I love it so much. And so it's always great when we get to work on other shows with other people.
Absolutely. Looking forward to, obviously helping support you and your mission as well, because I love what you're doing. But let's start from the beginning. Who is Jack Blair, and, why did you decide to join the military?
So Jack Blair, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, grew up out here. And when I got out of high school, 9/11 had just happened. And so it was one of those things where I decided that, I didn't want to go into debt for college. And so I did a semester of college, and I kind of saw what it was. And it was cool, but it wasn't really for me. And so I wasn't ready for it in that moment in my life. And so 9/11 had happened a couple of years earlier, and I just felt really compelled to serve. And my brother had joined the Navy. And so I went ahead and I joined the Navy as well. And it was one of those moments where I literally went to the naval recruiting station here on a Friday, and I said, what can you do to get me out the door as quickly as possible? And so the next Friday, I went and joined the Navy as a logistics specialist, which back in the day they called an SK. And so I became a storekeeper in the Navy, and I did that for 6 years. And when I got out of the Navy, my son was born. And so my son was born, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be a dad, and I'm going to raise my kid at home. Right. And so I had done 6 years, done some fun deployments to Central America, and done some stuff in the Bahamas, and was at a helicopter squadron. And then I was at the USS Boone FFG 28. So I did some fun stuff, but my kid was born, and I was like, all right, let me get out of the military. So I went home, got married. My son was born after I got married, but not by much. You know how that goes. So I ended up, that marriage did not last. The relationship didn't last, and I got divorced. And I started working at Arizona State University, helping veterans with their education benefits. And so I'm working at ASU, and I met my wife, and she also works at ASU. She's worked at ASU now for like 30 years. It's crazy. She's awesome. But when I met my wife, I also met this Army recruiter, and the Army recruiter was like, dude, what are you doing? You're too young to be out of the service. He's like, I got to get you back in. And I was like, well, dude, I'm not going to join the Army unless you've got like a cool job for me. So I joined up in the Army as a counterintelligence agent. And so really enjoyed that experience. It was super fun. Had an amazing experience being a counterintel agent and working with other people and doing the whole thing, right? So I joined the reserves as a counterintelligence agent, and then ended up getting all these active duty periods because we were still in the middle of Afghanistan and we were still doing Iraq. And so basically it was like you could deploy every other year if you wanted to. And so I ended up doing a lot of reserve time at the reserve unit. And then I got to do a deployment to Afghanistan. And I was in Afghanistan for about 9 months. And then unfortunately, my son was killed. It was kind of one of those freak things that happens. His The other family was kind of an abusive family, and so my son was with them while I was deployed. And this is before the military had really updated their policies, and before um, the state of Arizona had updated the laws. And so at this time, when a service member would deploy, if they were divorced and they had, joint custody of their kids, the other parent automatically got sole custody for that deployment. And so my wife was just kind of stuck, because even though she spent time with my son and she loved my son, she wasn't able to see him, because that's not how the laws were. We didn't have the laws that we have today, which do protect families who are dealing with these types of situations. And so my son was with my ex, and she had an abusive husband and an abusive stepson, and the stepson killed my son. And this is while I was in Afghanistan. And, it really shook me. It really just rocked my world. And in ways that you don't even know how to deal with it. Right. And this is one of those things when I talk to folks about my story, it's like, what do you even say? And, I'm sitting here, I'm all of me. I've got what looks like a perfectly working body, right? And so a lot of people, they come home from war and they have their injuries, but I had these invisible injuries that had been done really to my soul. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue serving after that. My unit tried to support me and they got me through the end of my contract. But after that, depression and a lot of things had really just made it so it was impossible for me to go on serving effectively as a soldier. And so even though it was like my passion and I loved it, I was just dealing with this insane, intense depression, and I wasn't able to keep going, And so that is a little bit of my backstory, right? And last year we hit 10 years from when this story kind of diverted, right? So my son was killed in 2014 while I was serving in Afghanistan, and 2024 was 10 years later. And, I don't think you ever get over these kind of deaths, but you learn to live on, right? I'm one of these people who I really do believe in positivity, and I don't want to believe in like toxic positivity. I don't want to like try to pretend like everything's okay. Like sometimes stuff just sucks. And that is reality for our world, right? Like it isn't all sunshine and daisies, but I do really believe in living a positive life. And I do really believe in, being a part of our veteran community. Um, After COVID, I went on a trip with a program through ASU called Treks for Vets. And Treks for Vets is this program where they take you out into the woods, and it's about a dozen veterans, and you go out and they've got these books that you get to go read, and there's like a workbook that you get to work through, and you're out in the forest and you go on these long hikes, and there's periods where you're, working together as a group. And then there's moments where you're like having solitude and just having moments to yourself. And I went through this experience, and it was really funny because I'm a big outdoors person. At the beginning, Brian mentioned the Overland Productions, and the Overland channel is a channel that I started during COVID, focusing on getting out and exploring the world, because I feel really strongly about that. But in Treks for Vets, I didn't really understand. I was right with trying to get out into nature, but the key factor that I think is so important is spending time around other veterans. And so all of that kind of leads me into This Is Not a Draft, which is the documentary that I've been working on for almost the past year. It's definitely been the last year in my mind. We started pre-production a year ago, and then our first interviews took place in June 2024, and we just had our last interviews last weekend. So we've finished principal photography, and we are now in the editing phases. But the thing, like I say, what led me to This Is Not a Draft was understanding that veteran community is so important and can be so life-changing that I really wanted to get out there and tell a story about it. And I wanted to share other veterans' stories for folks who had signed up to serve after 9/11. So I'm not a great salesperson. I'm not, I can't tell people, hey, you got to go buy this thing. But like, I can tell you, veteran community is worth the purchase. And veteran community is not a thing that you can buy. It's a space that you have to intentionally put yourself in. And that's being around other veterans, because no one else in the world can understand you as well as that other veteran who's sitting next to you, who's been through similar things to what you've been through. Because of the, trauma bonds that we all share, because of all the different things that we've all been through, these experiences, we have this amazing capacity to understand each other. And it's in ways that so few other people can. Like, my wife is amazing at being patient with me and listening to me and trying to love me in the ways that I need. And over the last 10 years, she's been learning about my trauma, and she's been understanding it and trying to figure out the best ways to help me and love me through it. But like, it's not stuff that the military stuff is not stuff that she's experienced firsthand. And so that's why, like, for me, I really have this whole mission of talking to people and, don't self-isolate, come out, like, go do the thing, go to events, spend time around other vets, because that is going to really strengthen your life and give you a life that's worth living. And, veteran suicide, one of the things that I do for work, I work for Johnson Controls. We're a large company out of Milwaukee, and, we've got sites all over the place. And whenever I go to another site, I go and I talk to people. And this summer in particular, I went on several business trips, and I was talking to people who are related to veterans or people who were veterans. And I heard in the span of 2 days, I met with 8 different people who'd all been personally impacted by veteran suicide. And it was just a real wake-up call for me that, like, we can't forget about this, and we can't let it go, right? We've all talked about, the number 22 and, 22 veteran suicides daily. But like, whatever the number is, it's too much. And there are things that we can do to prevent it. And so I'm one of those people who wants to get out there and try to prevent it. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there who have that same mission. And so for me, I find myself working alongside those types of people to try to come out and, make the world a little bit of a better place. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Holy cow, a podcast is over. Dude, you covered a lot there, which is awesome. And I love the mission and the story. Obviously, very sorry to hear about your son. But I love what you're doing because of it. It means a lot to our community, like you said. And I feel the same way. I struggled a lot when I first got out of the military. I couldn't find my purpose. And it wasn't until I ran into other veterans that understood what I was going through. And then I finally started to gain some traction and things like that. So I love that. And you mentioned Johnson Controls, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I know you're involved with the veteran ERG, and we got a lot of other things to cover. And, I could unpack 50 things that you just covered. But, we'll start here, but the veteran ERG, how important is that for a company like Johnson Controls to have veterans, have that camaraderie, but also for guys and gals who are getting out of the military and they join a company like Johnson Controls? How important do you think it is for them to get involved in something like that?
I mean, so, my views represent my own opinions. They don't represent Johnson Controls. But having said that, like, I think everybody at Johnson Controls who's a part of, we call them BRGs, business resource groups, we understand the value of finding those business resource groups because people can come alongside and they can support each other. And we have veteran business resource groups, but we also have other business resource groups for other different affinity groups. And so I think that there's a real power in participating in the business resource groups because you find other folks who are out there who maybe a little bit further along the walk, right? Like one of the things that I think we see a lot of strength in BRGs is the mentorship that that gets put out. And a lot of companies have mentor programs, and those are great. But the beauty of being a part of a mentor program or even an unofficial mentorship, right? Just having contact inside your BRG is that you get to understand how the business works, and you get somebody else who can answer questions for you in ways that you don't even know the right questions to ask sometimes. And so the beauty of being in a group like that is that folks can kind of see what you're struggling with and be like, oh, hey, you need to talk to this person. And something with Johnson Controls, we're a very large company, and so there's a lot of different people in a lot of different places to do things, and so it'll push you in the right direction, giving you just that extra handshake, right? So like, hey, this is what you need to do, call this person or email that group or whatever. But yeah, I see a lot of strength in it. And again, BRGs are veteran communities, right? That a veteran BRG is a intentional veteran community where you're intentionally spending time around other veterans. And so I am wholeheartedly behind that mission because I think that there's only strength that we get from it. So,
And you guys support other missions inside there too. So obviously, me and you are working on collaborating in some way, shape, or form, yet to be seen. But um, what kind of things are you guys doing inside your BRG to, create that camaraderie where you're going out there and doing things in the communities and stuff like that?
yeah, well, June 13th or 14th, I'm a bad Army guy. June 13th or 14th is the Army's 250th birthday. And so that's a pretty big birthday for us this year. So Johnson Controls, we're going to be having a get together, our San Antonio branch. So we're putting that in, and then anybody who's not in San Antonio obviously can't go and get the piece of cake and do the saber cutting and all that good stuff. But we'll take pictures and videos, and we'll create community moments through those, and people at other branches will also come in and provide pictures and show their celebrations. So one of the things is we just celebrate holidays together, right? We celebrate military holidays together. um, I know that last year we supported Wreaths Across America, which is a pretty cool mission. If you've never heard of Wreaths Across America, you should check them out. Wreathsacrossamerica.org, I believe. And they do a project every year. I don't remember what date it is specifically, but it's in December. And on one of the Saturdays, they get out and they go put wreaths across all of or as many of the national cemeteries and just regular cemeteries that are out there. And so, making sure that our veterans who have passed on are remembered, and they're remembered through a wreath. The largest celebration of that is in DC at the Arlington National Cemetery, but it's all over the United States, and it's a really great event that you can participate in. And so, we coordinated last year to do that as a BRG, and we got members to come out and show support. So that was good. We've also done Habitat for Humanity, where we have BRG members participate and go out and build a home for a veteran. That's a really great experience that they got to have last year. We're looking forward to finding something similar to that to do this year. That's one of the projects that we kind of talked about working with your company with, Brian. But yeah, we're always excited to do things in the veteran space. Tunnels to Towers is another one where they do a run. I believe it's in New York, and so we're looking to participate in that and send some BRG members up for that and support. But yeah, we're always looking to work in the veteran space. One of the things that I do is I volunteer here at the Azura Veterans Center, and I track that through my Benevity. And so, not only do I volunteer a couple hours a week But then I also, we have Benevity, which is one of those great programs where your company will match your volunteer time with a donation. So not only do I get to spend time working around other veterans, but then also the company donates to them. So I really appreciate that Johnson Controls participates in that way, because they're supporting the veteran community and many other communities as well, not just veterans. But when I volunteer for the Missouri Vet Center, I'm helping veterans. So that's what I love doing.
Just going through some of that stuff and you talking about transition earlier, I know your story is a little bit more unique, um, because of what happened to your son. But we get that question a lot, and our most viewed video here at VetBizTV is based on transition. A lot of these guys are looking for mentorship, like you had mentioned earlier. They don't know where to start, and I don't think the military certainly doesn't put enough time into you when you get out as they do when you go in. And I think that's a huge piece that's missing from leaving the military. But from your standpoint, when you got out, what sort of transition, challenges did you go through to either find work, dealing with, coping with, the situation that you were dealing with? Can you jump into depth into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I had two periods of transition, right? So the first one was when I got out of the Navy and I was out of the active duty. I got off active duty for the first time and I did everything wrong, right? I was that single termer kid who just made the wrong choices. I made all the wrong choices. When it came to the VA, I didn't report any of my issues. I had a hernia removed like 60 days after I got out of service because I was just trying to get out of the military. Like I, I didn't tell medical anything. I was like, no, I'm great. As soon as I clear medical, I get to go home. Okay, cool. Let me do it. So I did everything wrong, right? Like all of the things I did wrong. And that's pretty common. I think a lot of people were trying to do similar things. And so for me, when I got out, I did that. And then I got out and I was a logistics specialist in the Navy. I thought like, oh, I'm going to have some great job opportunities. Man, I didn't have anything. So I went and worked in a call center doing tech support for Bell Canada. And and none of that knowledge that I used there was gained while I was in the Navy. It was all stuff that I had from high school and just from a personal interest in working in technology. And so I'm literally like doing tech support. Bell Canada is like is what AT&T used to be, right? So Bell Canada is a Canadian company that's a branch of Bell Labs from back in the day. So I did tech support for people getting their internet installed. And I did that for, I don't know, 3-6 months. And I finally got an opportunity to hire on with an ambulance company. And I started doing logistics at the ambulance company. And I was there less than 6 months. And then, I started working at a community college because I was going to a community college. And this is literally when the post 9/11 GI Bill first came out. So this is 2009. And they didn't know what they were doing. Like the VA didn't know what they were doing with post 9/11. The community college didn't know what they were doing. And I wasn't getting paid. And so I was like, I went to the veterans space at Mesa Community College, and I was like, "Hey, y'all hiring?" So I went and got a job working in veterans benefits because I wanted to get my benefits right, and I knew that I wasn't going to get my benefits right. Nobody's going to care about your benefits more than you do, right? Like you have to go out there and advocate for yourself. There are lots of people who do want to advocate for other veterans, but like this was a totally new program, so nobody was going to get it right because it was brand new. So I went out, kind of figured out how it worked, and then helped make it right for everybody who was at my community college. Um, and then I left the community college and went on to the university, and I got a job there as well. So that was kind of my transition. I think I was finally feeling a little bit more successful when I got to ASU because I was at a university. I was going to start working on my degree, and I was able to work in a space to help veterans. So I really enjoyed that. You gotta do all the right things. I did all the wrong things. It's that's what everybody. It was super common too. Like I talked to all sorts of other veterans who go through similar situations.
Guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. You just want to get out, right? Like you're like, I'm done. I just want to get out. What do I do? The fastest way to clear medical. Oh, you're all good. Okay, cool. Literally had surgery less than 60 days after being out of the Navy. And I had to pay for it all because I didn't know. I just wanted to be out.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Well, here you have it, folks. Learn from our failures.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't do the same thing. So what? Tell me a little bit about how'd you get into what you're doing now. Obviously, outside of Johnson Controls, you're doing creative filmmaking. You're doing two podcasts, right? So,
I'm doing
what made you want to
three.
get? What drew you into that?
I've always been into technology. You know, I grew up, my parents were pretty religious. So we went to church every Sunday, and I was a part of the sound booth community, right? So I did live sound every Sunday and every Wednesday for, 12, 14 years of my life growing up. And when I joined the military, I kind of got away from it. And when I got back, I wanted to be a part of technology and live sound and stuff again. And so I was just like, what do I do to get back into this? And podcasts was a super easy way, right? During COVID, it seemed like everybody had a podcast. And so, one of the things that I had was I had this knowledge of how sound worked. And a lot of people don't know how things work. And so like one of the things I really enjoy doing is enabling other veterans to get their voices heard. And so like as soon as I'm off the air with you, I've got another podcast that's going to be rolling in, and we've got the Azura Vet Center that we're supporting here, and they're a vet center in Phoenix, Arizona, well, Mesa, Arizona, and they help out veterans who are going through transition issues or drug and addiction issues. They do really amazing work, and I really love and support what they do. So I'm here to make sure that they get off the ground. I've got a great team of folks who are working with me. You got to meet them before we started recording, but John and Andrew have been really huge assets to the team. And Andrew and John both went through ASU's film program. We all went through ASU's film program. And that's where kind of we met. And we realized we all had this passion of working together as veterans, but then also to do film work. And so that's what's kind of pushed me into this space is like I love being able to do any kind of live streams or, recording videos. Obviously, we're doing a documentary. That's been a huge experience. That's been amazing. Because of the community experience that we've had, getting out to talk to other veterans, getting to hear other veterans' stories, but then also like we went to DC, we went to Arlington, we went to the World War II Memorial, we went to the Vietnam Memorial, we went to the Pentagon Memorial, we went to the World Trade Center Memorial. Like we went to all these spaces and we got to really just honor the sacrifice and the service of those people who signed up and served after 9/11 and the folks who unfortunately passed away from 9/11. So it's been a real experience and it's a total joy to be able to work in this space. And so that's why I just keep doing it because it's like, let's go, right? Let's find something else to do. Let's find another veteran mission to support because one of the things that we spoke to a doctor for the documentary. She's done a bunch of military studies around suicide and around just veterans in general. And one of the things that she pointed out to me that I was like, should have been really obvious, but I didn't realize this was that we have kind of like an archetype of people who generally sign up to serve in the military. And that's people who are service oriented, right? Like people who want to help. And so one of the things that she pointed out was that when veterans transition, you don't stop wanting to serve. That desire to serve is still there. And so that's one of these things that's really important for us as veterans to make sure that we're still doing the things that drive us because something drove you to join, something drove you to enlist or to commission and that's still there, right? And so if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling like you're not getting something out of your life, it's probably because you need to get back into the mission and you need to get a part of it and start helping out and doing stuff because that's probably something you feel like is missing from your life and you may not even realize it.
No, I share the same passion, man. This VetBiz TV has given me a lot more purpose. Gets the juices flowing, man, and it, you
Absolutely.
know, some of the things that I've seen that I've struggled with and I've seen others struggle with. You know, I want to tell their stories because they didn't just get to where they are because of what they did. They did it because they fought to get what they earned it. And my passion is what's helped me is through business, right? Like I've met a lot of people through the business community, and a lot of the people that you know, were drawn to were veterans. I'm like, how'd you do it, man? Like, how'd you start your business? How'd you get this far? Like, that kind of stuff's important because you got to be able to make a living, but then it allows us to be able to do stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
You know, do the things that we absolutely love and have a passion about. So I totally appreciate that. And since you're on it, you know, tell us more about the film, man. This is not a draft.
As I've been living and breathing This Is Not a Draft for the last year. So if you want to watch our teaser, we've got a teaser that's out. Thisisnotadraft.com. Go check it out. You can see kind of what we're getting at. But we're super excited. Like I said earlier, we've wrapped up our principal photography. Now we're working on the edit. We're applying to be in some film festivals this fall. So we're hoping to be able to premiere at Doc NYC, which is in November. So really excited for that opportunity. You know, we haven't submitted yet because we're still working on the edit, but we'll have that done soon enough. We're 8 weeks out from getting it cut. So at least a rough cut that we can submit. So yeah, we're super excited about it. Like I said, we talked to 8 different veterans. We went around. We wanted to talk to as many people as we could, but the reality is that people will only watch for so long. And while we've been going through everything, we've realized, you know, maybe we need to do a docuseries because there are so many stories out there to be told, and there's so many people who are doing such amazing things. With the documentary, the things that we're talking about kind of 3 acts. So our first act is, what was your motivation to serve? So we ask, you know, each of our veterans, you know, hey, what made you want to join? Some of our veterans signed up before 9/11. And so they were in service already when 9/11 happened. And then some of our veterans signed up after 9/11. And so many of them were motivated to join because of 9/11, but some of them had some surprising motivations to serve that you wouldn't have expected. So I'll let you watch the documentary to find that out. But really great stories. So that's chapter 1. That's act 1 is what was your motivation to serve. Then act 2 is, we all had a price of service, right? For me, I lost my son, right? And that was a huge thing. I lost hearing. I lost the ability to remember things, lots of other silly things. But, you know, we all had some form of cost, right? Even one of our guys, I didn't even really think about it until I heard him say it. But one of our guys said, you know, I lost time with my family. And, you know, not his parents, his kids, his wife, right? Like he had to sacrifice time with his family. And as somebody who was a real adventurous young buck, like getting out and traveling was a huge bonus for me. I didn't view it as a cost because I was single in my active duty times. But I see that now looking back, like being away from your family all the time is a huge cost that a lot of people have to pay. So we all have costs that we pay. And so that's what Act 2 is hearing from our veterans. What were the costs of their service? And then because I am such a positive person, or I try to be a positive person, I wasn't going to leave you on a down note. So Act 3 is, what's your life like after service? And a lot of the people that we intentionally interviewed, we wanted to make sure that they were doing things because I feel like there's always 2 veterans, right? There's 2 veterans that most people see. And we see the guy who's homeless down at the off ramp. And then we have Jack Ryan, or we have Jack Reacher, and we have the Supermans, right? And there's no in between. People don't see the in between. I'm the in between, right? I'm the guy who's on the in between. I'm not homeless and I'm not a superhero. I'm just trying to do good things for my family and for my community and for my veterans, right? And I think it's really important that we showcase those stories because there's so many people out there who are trying to do good things. So that's one of the things that we're doing is we're highlighting veterans who are doing some positive in their community. So I'm real excited to highlight and share those stories with everyone because everybody has an interesting story and I want to make sure that it gets out there. So this is not a draft. In addition to talking to the veterans, like I said, we did talk to Dr. Becky Blaze or Blay, Dr. Becky Blay, and she kind of gave us a little bit of a clinical concept of it. And like I said, one of the things that she pointed out to me was just that duh moment of, hey, everybody who signed up had a propensity to serve in the first place. And so it really helps me realize, I still need to keep doing that. The mission continues, right? All these other great buzzword names of organizations who are out there. Um, I served with a group called Team Rubicon. I don't know if you've ever heard of Team Rubicon, but Team Rubicon does a lot of really great work um, in a volunteer capacity where they go out and they help communities that are impacted by wildfires, natural disasters. I went to Ukraine with them for 6 weeks and did a medical mission trying to support displaced persons. Like, these are the kinds of things that you can do. There's so many organizations that are out there that are giving veterans a second chance to be of service. And I think we all got to be aware that they exist. And like, if you've seen this trailer for Thunderbolts, right? It's a new Marvel movie, and they've got Yelena Belena or whatever her name is, and she's up there and she's talking to the Red Guardian, and she's like, hey, how's your life? Are you feeling fulfilled? And this trailer, which I hope maybe Brian can stitch it in for us.
Yelena!
Hi, Dad. You feel fulfilled?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so full. So filled. What brings you here?
There's something wrong with me. I don't have purpose.
But this trailer, like, perfectly speaks to the downtrodden soldier service member who is lacking that purpose in their life, right? David Harbour's character says, oh, so full, so filled. Like, he's lying. He's lying to himself, and he's lying to his daughter. And I espouse to that so much. Like, there's been so many moments where I didn't feel like my life was fulfilled because I wasn't volunteering. I wasn't serving. I wasn't living a life of purpose. I was trying to survive for a while. And that was one of those things where I just had to try to survive because sometimes that's all you can do. But you've got to also push forward, and you've got to go in and do more. So that's why, like, I really like highlighting the different organizations that are out there giving veterans a chance to volunteer and to serve, because I think those things are really powerful for us all.
You touched on something there, Act 2. Oh, a few things, but Act 2, I mean, that's, I saw a lot of the same things. And, it always, in my back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to have a family while I'm in the military, because I see what, these families are going through. But props to all the military spouses out there too, because, boy, do they go through some crap themselves, trying to raise the family on the home front. And especially if you have a family of, a larger family with children and stuff like that, it's even harder to deal with. But, how did you identify the veterans and find the veterans to tell these stories? Did you have some resources, or I don't want to give away the house here. Is it in the trailer?
No, it's not in the trailer. So I did an open call. I did an open call about a year ago. I put it out on my website. I put it out on LinkedIn. I put it out in Instagram, and I reached out to my community, and I invited people to apply to tell their story. And we had about a dozen people reach out, and I went through and one of the commitments that I made to everybody that we met with was that your full length story will be captured, recorded, and uploaded to YouTube, full length, edited only for ums and ahs, right? So that your family and your friends can see your story, so that your story can live on after you. One of the things that inspired me to do that was my grandfather passed a couple of years ago, and he was 96, and he'd been a World War II veteran, and I was a dumb young jerk, and I didn't ask my grandfather a lot of questions about his service. And I was realizing that I really would have loved to have had that information. And now what I have is a written narrative of my grandfather's military service, and that's it. Because I didn't take the time to go record a conversation with him. I didn't take the time to hear his story. And so I really, felt really bummed about that. So I was like, you know what? Let me go out there and do this, and I'll record a bunch of stories. And one of the things we're going to do is the National Archives has a setup to where you can record any veteran's story, and it can be entered into the National Archives. They have a series of questions that they want you to answer in your interviews. But other than that, any story, you can upload it and it becomes a part of the National Archives. And so I think that's such a great idea that I wanted to do it for everybody we put in the doc. So everybody that we put in the doc, their story will be submitted to the National Archives if they so desire. People have the opportunity to opt out if they don't want to. I don't know anyone who would opt out, but if they wanted to, they could. And we aren't posting any of that stuff until the documentary's premiered, obviously, because we want to have the premiere first. We don't want to give away the story. But once that's all done, everything will be uploaded as per their preference. So if they want it on YouTube, it'll be on YouTube. They can be unlisted or public, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. What was the inspiration behind the name? How'd you come up with it?
So it's kind of funny. The name was actually from a poem that I had written. So I wrote a poem that was originally titled "This Is Not a Draft," and I had submitted it to a local veteran group, the journal called Issued Magazine, and it's a veteran publication that publishes veteran stories and poetry. And so that story I wrote with that, and then I just thought about it, and I really liked what it was because it spoke so much to everybody who signed up for 9/11 or after 9/11. Everybody signed up voluntarily. It wasn't a draft. This wasn't Vietnam. This wasn't Korea. This wasn't World War II. Everybody was a volunteer. And so to me, it just felt like "This Is Not a Draft" was a great way to express that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of curious as you were. I didn't know if you were going to tell that story or not, but I do like the name.
Thank you very much.
Anything we haven't covered so far that you want to go through?
We're excuse me. We're currently going through post-production, right? And it's expensive. So, if you want to support This Is Not a Draft, we do have a GoFundMe, and you can go to thisisnotadraft.com and you can find the GoFundMe there, and you can support the mission there. But we've got about $7,000 worth of expenses left, and so my wife has graciously allowed me to support the documentaries thus far. But it would be very helpful if we could get further support. So, yeah,
we will share all your links below the video as well. So if people are want to learn more about what you guys are doing, obviously we want them to get in touch with you to be able to help support.
Yeah. And we're on social media. We've got Facebook, though I will be perfectly honest, I don't use it very often. But we have one, and we've got Instagram, Not a Draft Documentary, and thisisnotadraft.com. We write some updates on the blog post there, and then we also do updates on the GoFundMe website. But yeah, we've had a blast. I can tell you, like, personally, it's been one of the best experiences of my life, spending this last year going out and talking to other veterans and getting to share their stories. And I'm thrilled to apply for these festivals. And we really hope to debut in New York, because I think that'll just bring it that much more power if we can debut at Doc NYC, Doc New York City. They're a documentary festival, film festival that I think we'd love to be a part of there. So we'll be submitting shortly as soon as we can get the editing done.
That's awesome. So if I'm a vet, I'm getting out of the military, and I'm looking at getting into podcasting or get my creative juices flowing, filmmaking and stuff like that. Where should somebody start?
I mean, YouTube University is great. There's lots of great creators out there who are putting out good content. The main thing that I would encourage anybody who's trying to get into podcasts is focus on your audio, and get better video as soon as you can afford to, but focus on your audio. Make it so that your audio sounds good, because if your audio sounds bad, nobody wants to listen to it. And people don't even know, they're not even aware of it, like consciously. But if you're listening to something that's all scratchy or real, vibrations and noises, nobody wants to hear it. And so they'll eventually turn away. So try to fix your audio as your first goal and then move on from there. But yeah, if you want to learn more about podcasts, you can definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to share the knowledge. Like I said, I love getting this stuff out there, and I love supporting veteran voices, making sure the stories can be told.
Hey, man. Well, I appreciate everything you've shared today. This is powerful stuff, and obviously we'll be supporting you ongoing here in your mission to get your movie out there, because it's really cool what you're doing for the community, not just through that, but also locally. It's cool to see what different veterans are doing across the country to support each other.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I found when I started getting into the space, was just how many veterans are also motivated and desiring to push out and work in this space. So in that sense, it's really comforting to me to know that there's so many people out there trying to do good stuff for our community, because, we need it.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts?
Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it. If you made it to the end, that's awesome. Make sure to like and subscribe, and, ring the bell for notifications.
I appreciate it, brother. We'll definitely be in touch, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, for sure. We'll post stuff on the socials and everything out there. We're excited. We love, working with you, and look forward to doing something together with our BRG and the ERGs.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this one, check out these videos right over here, and we'll see you in the next video.